10 years into our marriage, Samuel cheated on me. He brought his mistress's 2 children to me, saying they needed a father and that those children were pitiful. Our daughter begged him to stay, but he remained unmoved. I didn't cling to him. I took my daughter and left, afraid she might suffer, and I never remarried. Years later, my daughter met a wonderful man. My granddaughter was lovely too, and I spent my days caring for her, living a contented life. On my 60th birthday, my daughter and son-in-law told me they were too busy with work, and my granddaughter had a last-minute tutoring session, so they would celebrate my birthday the next day. But that very night, I came across a local video on social media. In a luxurious hotel room, there they were, my daughter, her husband, Samuel, and those 2 children, 6 people gathered together, singing a birthday song to Samuel's mistress. My daughter even called her Monica Mom. Chapter 1. My daughter said we had to celebrate my 60th birthday in a big way. I told her not to go overboard. She insisted, saying that she had seen all my hard work over the years and that the celebration must be grand. My heart warmed. I felt so touched. These years, I raised my daughter alone, watched her grow up, then watched her get married and have her own child. My son-in-law was very filial, treating me like his own mother. My granddaughter was adorable too, always sweetly calling me grandma. I was happy. The pain of Samuel's betrayal was slowly healed by the love of my family. So when my daughter mentioned having a big birthday celebration, I was genuinely moved. I looked forward to my 60th birthday. When you get older, you like having a lively atmosphere, you crave the warmth of family around you. That's what gives life meaning. So on that day, I woke up early. I tidied myself up, sent my granddaughter Sophia off to school, and left breakfast on the table for my daughter and son-in-law before they both left for work. My daughter said she and her husband would handle some work in the morning and come home early to celebrate my birthday. I stayed at home, cleaning the house and waiting for them. I waited a long time, well past the time they said they would be back, but my daughter still hadn't returned. Worried that something had happened, I was just about to call her when my phone rang. Mom, something urgent came up at work for both Eric and me. It was sudden, and we couldn't take leave. We probably can't celebrate your birthday today. There was deep guilt in her voice. I felt a pang of disappointment, but their careers were important, so I tried to steady my emotions. I told her, it's okay, work comes first. You focus on your jobs. I'll pick up Sophia later. Right, I hadn't even finished speaking when my daughter suddenly spoke, interrupting me. Mom, it's your birthday today, so take a break from everything. As for Sophia, my friend happens to be passing by the school this afternoon, and she'll pick Sophia up and bring her to my office. You should just relax at home. Thinking about my daughter's demanding job and how young Sophia still is, I couldn't help but speak up. Maybe I should pick her up instead. You're so busy, and this little girl is at the age when she's quite a handful. She might disturb your work. Hearing what I said, my daughter seemed anxious, and her voice got noticeably louder. Oh, come on, my friend's on her way anyway. Mom, don't worry and just rest at home. I'll take care of Sophia. I have another meeting soon, so I need to go. Before I could say another word, she quickly hung up the phone, giving me no chance to respond. I listened to the beeping tone on the other end and sighed. My daughter has been working so hard, and she's lost quite a bit of weight recently. So I went back into the kitchen, planning to make a nourishing chicken stew for her and my son-in-law. The old hen would need a long time to stew, and since I had finished all the house chores, I sat on the sofa, took out my phone, and decided to rest for a while. At my age, I like to pass time by watching videos. I opened the video recommendation page and swiped through several, but none caught my interest. Just as I was about to close it, I accidentally clicked on the local section. With just one glance, I recognized the back of the woman in the thumbnail. It was my daughter Zoe. Chapter 2. The video was posted half an hour ago. I clicked on it without hesitation. The scene seemed to be a private room in a hotel. My daughter was standing by the table with my son-in-law holding Sophia. All 3 of them were smiling. Zoe turned her head slightly, and the camera shifted to the side. And then, I saw Samuel. If you asked me who I hated most in my life, without a doubt, it would be Samuel. We were in love when we were young, and I thought we'd be happy together for a lifetime. Until the 10th year of our marriage, when his first love's husband died in an accident, leaving her and their 2 young children alone. At first, he helped them in secret, without telling me. When I found out, we had a huge fight, and he yelled at me with a red face, saying I was heartless. Later, he held his first love's 2 children in his arms and handed me the divorce papers. He said, "Joel and Helen are too young. They can't grow up without a father." So he wanted to divorce me, get back with his first love, and be a father to those 2 children. When he said those words, our daughter Zoe clung to his leg, crying uncontrollably, begging her father not to leave. But Samuel, he turned away and walked out without hesitation. I didn't bother to fight further. I demanded most of his assets, then took my daughter and left. I changed my daughter's last name to mine. Fearing that a stepfather might mistreat her, I never remarried. I focused entirely on raising her, watching her grow up, go to college, fall in love, get married, and then give birth to little Sophia. And through all of this, Samuel never showed up. Occasionally, I heard that he and his first love never had more children, raising those 2 kids as their own, devoted and hardworking. Zoe once told me that she hated Samuel just like I did. I thought that, having memories of our divorce, she would remember my pain and avoid them like a plague. But I never imagined that they would still be in contact in secret. Not only that, I watched the video where Zoe and Samuel stood together. They were talking quietly, without a trace of hatred. They even led the birthday song. My son-in-law and Sophia clapped along, and those 2 children, now grown up, joined in singing as well. The woman they all surrounded was Samuel's first love, Monica. She was still as charming as ever, wearing a beautiful dress, standing there like a little princess, the center of attention. Monica and I shared the same birthday. Even more ridiculous, my daughter, whom I cherished as my life, after finishing the birthday song, walked up to Monica, reached out to hug her, and called her Mom. Chapter 3. I threw my phone to the ground, and the video continued playing in a loop. My chest hurt, but even more than that, I was filled with disbelief, desperately trying to find an excuse for myself. The daughter who had been by my side through everything had witnessed her father's cold-heartedness and seen how Monica pretended to be an innocent damsel, saying sorry while stepping into our lives and destroying our once complete family. So how could she call that woman Mom? I couldn't believe it. I sat on the sofa for a long time, until the unpleasant smell from the kitchen reached me. The chicken soup had boiled dry. I hurriedly turned off the stove, and in my distressed state, I reached for the pot with my bare hand, burning a large patch of my fingers. I was just about to treat the burn. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, I saw the delivery man holding a cake. The cake was the one I ordered for myself. A small one. As one grows older, it's easy to feel sentimental. So after getting off the phone with Zoe, I had ordered a small cake online, a 1-person celebration, still a celebration nonetheless. I placed the cake on the coffee table and put a few candles on it. With my hands clasped together, I closed my eyes to make a wish. I had already decided on my wish a long time ago. I hoped that my precious daughter would have a happy and smooth life, that my son-in-law would always love my daughter, and that dear little Sophia would be healthy and smart. That was the wish I originally intended to make. But now, as soon as I closed my eyes, all I could see was Zoe lying to me about having to work late, only to turn around and take her husband and granddaughter to celebrate Monica's grand birthday. In the video, Monica was surrounded by all of them, having a grand time, just like a real family. Unlike me now, sitting alone, cold and deserted, like a clown, like a joke. The child who was once part of me had turned into a knife, stabbing me right in the heart. It hurt too much. When you grow old, you become easily sentimental, and my tears betray me. While wiping away my tears, I made a new wish. I hope, for the rest of my days, I live happily and joyfully. That's it. For so many years, all my wishes had been for my children, never for myself. But now, thinking about it, it really wasn't worth it. I took 2 bites of the cake. It was greasy and didn't taste good at all. I checked the time again. It was now 11 o'clock at night. Normally at this hour, I would have finished all the housework, put Sophia to bed, and gone to my room to sleep. But tonight, I couldn't fall asleep. The next moment, there was noise at the door. Zoe tiptoed in but stopped at the entryway when she saw me sitting in the living room. She froze for a moment, looking somewhat flustered. My son-in-law and Sophia followed behind her, still chatting away about the birthday celebration until they saw me, and both fell silent at once. Sophia pretended as if nothing had happened. She blinked her innocent big eyes, held out her arms to me, saying she missed Grandma and wanted a hug. Looking at Sophia running towards me, I didn't pick her up as I used to do so lovingly. From the moment she was born, I had poured my heart and soul into caring for her just like I did for Zoe. My son-in-law has no parents, and both he and Zoe work long hours. The cost of living in this big city is high. So I had always taken care of Sophia to give my daughter and son-in-law peace of mind, allowing them to work without worries. But this little one, just like her mother, betrayed me too. As Zoe approached, she seemed to want to act like nothing had happened. She pretended to rub her shoulders, saying work had been exhausting today and promised me a grand celebration tomorrow. Her gaze fell on the small cake on the coffee table, and she froze for a moment. Mom, did you buy the cake yourself? Maybe it was because the cake was too small, or maybe because the cake they had for Monica today was too big. I could see the guilt in her eyes. I felt that testing her was meaningless, so I asked directly. Zoe, where did you go today? She paused, her eyes searching my face as if desperately looking for something, but in the end, she chose to play dumb. Mom, what are you talking about? I went to work today. After she spoke, she glanced at her husband Eric and Sophia. Eric nodded quickly. Yes, Mom. I was so busy today. My back and waist are sore from working all day. As for Sophia, she mimicked her father's gesture, shaking her head like a rattle. Grandma, we didn't go to eat cake today, we didn't. Children's logic is never airtight. The more they talk, the easier it is to slip up. Zoe didn't even have time to cover her mouth. All she could do was give me an awkward smile, her eyes darting around as she began to lie. Mom, don't misunderstand. Sophia was restless at my office, causing trouble, so I bought her a small piece of cake. Listening to this clumsy lie, I felt deeply disappointed. So I took out my phone, found that video, and threw it right in front of her. She froze, her mouth opening as if she wanted to explain something. But eventually, she sighed, sat down beside me, and seemed to give up. Oh, Mom. It's been so many years. I know you hate Dad, but he and I are related by blood. For your sake, I've rarely seen him over the years. Haven't I done enough? You're so old now, why can't you let go of these grudges? Even if you can't, don't drag me into it. All these years, whenever it was your birthday, have I not been there with you? Monica. Aunt Monica shares the same birthday as you. Even though she never says it, I know she wishes for the family to be together, so I thought, since we live together, what difference does it make which day we celebrate? I celebrated her birthday first, and then tomorrow, I'll celebrate yours. Isn't that fine? Mom, you're too old for tantrums, aren't you? Eric and I are already exhausted from work every day. Being with Dad makes things a bit easier for me. But look at you now, can't you think about me for once? Hearing my daughter's complaints, my already cold heart grew even colder. So I asked her, are you blaming me for stopping you from reuniting with your father? I looked at Zoe. She looked nothing like Samuel, she resembled me much more. So, back when we divorced, Samuel gave all his fatherly love to Monica's 2 children. Especially the daughter, Helen. The first time I saw her, she was only 6 years old, but her expressions and demeanor were exactly like Monica's. That's why Samuel loved her the most. Back then, Zoe cried hysterically, curling up in my arms, asking me over and over again. Mom, why doesn't Dad want me? Why does he want to be someone else's dad? Doesn't he love me anymore? At that time, seeing her cry felt like my heart was shattering. My child, whom I carried for 9 months, had to face such an irresponsible father, it was too sad. But now, looking back, all of it seems like a joke. Zoe listened to my words and, seemingly unaware of the change in my tone, began to act spoiled as she usually did. Mom, that's not what I meant. But think about it, Dad is getting old now. No matter what, I still have half of his blood in me. No matter how much resentment there was, so many years have passed, shouldn't it fade away? And Monica, Mom, no, Aunt Monica, she is actually a good person. Back then, she took Dad away because she was worried that Joel and Helen wouldn't have a father. But later, she even said sorry to me, and she buys me gifts, treats me like her own daughter. Regardless of all the grudges, you're so old now. Why hold on to such old grievances? Listening to my daughter's complaints, I felt it was absurd. The father who once abandoned her without looking back was the one she cried for late at night, asking why he didn't want her. And Monica, who knowingly became the other woman, gave Zoe just one gift, and that was enough for her to let go of all the past resentment. So, I shook off her hand directly. Zoe, so in your opinion, my not forgiving Samuel and Monica means I'm just being unreasonable? My daughter nodded, as if it was only natural. Of course. I was so young back then, and I've forgotten all the hatred. Now, when I close my eyes, all I can remember are the good times with Dad when I was little. Those were happy times. So, Mom, I hope you can forget too. Let's be a family again like we used to be. Aunt Monica is really nice. Maybe you could even be sis. Before she could finish speaking, I slapped her across the face. She screamed and quickly stood up, covering her face as she shouted at me. Mom, why did you hit me for no reason? With your terrible temper, no wonder Dad prefers gentle and quiet Monica. After saying that, she ran into her room crying, and my son-in-law and Sophia hurriedly followed to comfort her. The door wasn't closed, so I could vaguely hear their conversation. Old and muddle-headed, holds on to grudges forever, bad-tempered old lady, so annoying. There were many more, words spoken by the daughter I had loved for half my life. At that moment, my heart truly died. So I stood up, went to my room, packed my bags, and left the homeowners chat group on my phone. My daughter and son-in-law had worked hard for many years, but the housing prices in the capital were too high. Even now, they are still paying off their mortgage every month. I pitied them, and every month I used my pension to help them out, covering their mortgage, and also paying for utilities, groceries, even Sophia's tutoring classes. It was all money I had been providing. Now, since I have chosen to leave, I certainly won't be giving them money anymore. Whether or not they can afford it without my help is no longer my concern. In addition, I actually have another property, which I never told anyone about, not even Zoe. I bought it to guard against my son-in-law, fearing he might turn out like Samuel, so I kept the property in my name, planning to transfer it to my daughter after I passed. Now, it seems there's no need. And that property will be my future home. With my generous pension every month, I can actually live quite well on my own. When I left my room, Zoe was still crying, and the cake was still on the coffee table. Everything was a mess. So I dragged my suitcase, without any hesitation, and left. Chapter 4. By the time I settled in, it was already 3 in the morning. After taking a shower, I lay down in bed. When I checked my phone, there were no missed calls, no unread messages. After all, she was a daughter I had raised for more than 20 years. In the end, it still hurt a little. But maybe that's good. It makes it easier to let go, and I won't convince myself to go back. I canceled my daily morning alarm. Then I turned off the lights, pulled up the covers, and pushed all those thoughts out of my mind, closing my eyes to sleep. That night, I didn't sleep well. Over and over, I dreamed of the times I spent with Zoe. Back then, Samuel insisted on divorcing me. Although I took away most of his assets, my daughter was still too young, and because of this, she suffered severe psychological trauma, to the point where she couldn't even go to school for a while. I had no choice but to temporarily quit my job and stay by her side every day. She always slept uneasily, often waking up in the middle of the night from nightmares, crying for her mom and dad not to leave her. I would hold her and sing the lullaby I had used to put her to sleep since she was little, staying by her side all night. She slept peacefully, but I would wake up with a sore back, my arm aching for half the day. Back then, when Zoe saw me in pain, she would tightly hold my hand. Then she'd start to massage my arm. While massaging, she'd say, "Mom, I'll rub it for you so it won't hurt anymore." At that time, she was truly well behaved. I took a deep breath, opened my eyes, and glanced at the time on my phone. Although I had turned off my alarm clock. But after so many years, my biological clock woke me up at the usual time. Normally, I would go to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Then call Sophia to get up, she's young, and always dawdles in bed for a long time. I would coax her while carrying her, help her wash up, tie her hair into a cute little braid, and then let her eat breakfast. After she finished, I would take her to kindergarten. Then I would return home, by which time Zoe and Eric would have already eaten and were on their way to work. I would start cleaning up the dishes and tidying up the house. In short, I'd be busy the whole day, always revolving around this big family. There was hardly a moment for myself. But now, things are different. After getting up, I only needed to make breakfast for myself, and after eating, I would go downstairs to walk around the neighborhood, stretching my limbs, a comfortable and relaxed life. But before I finished my walk, Zoe called. I didn't answer the first call. She called again, a second, a third time. It wasn't until the fifth call that I accidentally pressed the answer button. I didn't put it on speakerphone, but Zoe's voice on the other end was still shockingly loud. Mom, where did you go all night? How old are you now, acting like a young person, running away from home whenever you feel like it? You didn't even care about Sophia, she's going to be late for school. And breakfast isn't ready, are you going to let us go to work hungry? Do you know I have an important meeting today that I can't afford to be late for? Every question felt like caring for them was my responsibility. I didn't say anything. But Zoe, on the other end of the line, kept on talking. I just asked you to help take care of the child, cook some meals, clean up the house. You're living comfortably at home while Eric and I work hard for this family, getting up early and staying up late. Now you decide to disappear just like that. Don't you think you're being unreasonable? Unreasonable. I couldn't help but smile bitterly. This is the child who shares my blood. I devoted my whole life to her. And yet, she seems to never see my hardships, always assuming it's all as it should be. If it were yesterday, perhaps I would still feel sad, reluctant to let go of these years we spent depending on each other. But from now on, I am truly disappointed in her. Zoe, although I lived in your home, your mortgage and all other expenses were paid with my money. I worked hard taking care of this family, and if you think that's living comfortably, then from now on, it's up to you to handle everything. As for me, since you don't want me as your mom, I don't need you as my daughter anymore either. After saying that, I hung up directly, not bothering with her anymore. But it still affected my mood somewhat, so I went upstairs, changed my clothes, and decided to go to the mall. For all these years, I revolved around Zoe and her husband and daughter. I rarely went to malls or bought clothes for myself. Now, with all these burdens lifted, my savings and my monthly pension are more than enough for me to live well. Buying some beautiful clothes, nice bags, and jewelry, becoming a carefree stylish old lady, sounds like a pretty good idea. Chapter 5. But I didn't expect that the one time I decided to indulge myself by shopping, I would run into Samuel at the mall. He was walking alongside Monica. The two of them walked into a clothing store, and we came face to face. When Samuel saw me, his gaze seemed evasive. Monica, however, smiled smugly, walking straight up to me with the same attitude she had when we first met, still as detestable. Julia, are you here to buy clothes too? She made no attempt to hide her exaggerated smile, her eyes scanning me from head to toe, and then shook her head, speaking in a patronizing tone. Look at you, staying home every day to take care of kids and do housework. Even if you buy a nice outfit, when do you have time to wear it? Or, perhaps, have you set your eyes on some old man recently and plan to dress up and catch his attention? People are naturally drawn to gossip. Her voice was loud enough that many of the other customers in the store couldn't help but look over. For this woman, now the old mistress, I had no intention of being polite. As more and more eyes turned to us, I exclaimed, "How could I compare to you? Back then, your husband had just died, and you threw yourself into my husband's arms with 2 children in tow. With skills like yours, I could never learn even after all these years." People present, who had lived through life's ups and downs, had enough experience to understand the deeper meaning even if it wasn't spelled out clearly. A customer who had just entered the store exclaimed, "Oh, so she's the old mistress?" Upon hearing this, Monica's face turned bright red. Samuel immediately stepped forward, wanting to scold me. "Julia, don't go too far." I laughed. I turned to the customer, pointing at Samuel. "There, that's the man who was seduced back then. He said those kids didn't have a father, so he abandoned his own daughter to be their dad. To this day, those children don't even take his surname, and he doesn't care. Isn't he just so noble? Those two children still only call Samuel uncle. And that has always been a sore spot for Samuel. Now that I had laid it all out openly, his face turned an even darker shade of blue, but he couldn't do anything because everything I said was true, leaving him glaring at me angrily. The crowd's laughter grew louder, calling him a fool. Monica, too, was furious. Unable to out-argue me, she pulled Samuel, preparing to leave. But, as fate would have it, it was right at that time when Zoe came into the mall after work and happened to run into Monica. "Monica, Mom, what's wrong?" Zoe, seeing her upset expression, immediately asked anxiously. Monica had been furious a moment ago, but seeing Zoe by her side now, she instantly straightened up, then turned to look at me. "Your mom is still angry at me. It's my fault. I shouldn't have let you come celebrate my birthday." While speaking, Monica lowered her head, looking utterly wronged. Zoe raised her eyes to look at me. Perhaps she was still holding on to her anger from this morning, for she didn't hesitate to hold Monica's hand and march up to me, her words sharp. "Mom, is it really necessary to keep throwing tantrums? Just look at Monica, Mom, she's kind and gentle. You throw tantrums for everything. Any man would know who to choose. What a wonderful daughter I've raised." That knife aimed straight at my heart. So, I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. The child who was once part of me should never have turned into a knife stabbing me in the heart. It's all just too ironic. "Mom, you hit me again." She covered her face, looking shocked. I looked at her coldly. The heart that once ached for her now turned slowly towards anger, and then slowly became calm, a deep cold calm that comes after the ultimate disappointment, making the Zoe before me feel like a stranger. This stranger is not my daughter, and I do not want her. So, I simply reached out and pushed her, shoving her towards Monica and Samuel. "If you like them more, then call them Mom and Dad from now on. I'm not lucky enough to be your mother, nor do I want to be anymore." She seemed amused by my words, as if my reaction made her laugh. She immediately grabbed Monica's arm, seemingly intent on provoking me, and said loudly, "If you don't want to be my mom, then fine. I don't need a mom like you, so unstable and emotional. Monica, Mom is so great. I'm going to have dinner with them today, and we're going to be one big happy family, unlike you, who keeps dwelling on those old pointless grudges, complaining day after day." Her actions were so exaggerated that her ID card fell out of her pocket onto the ground. Hearing the noise, I instinctively looked down. The card had fallen face down. The photo must have been recently taken, and the name. So, my daughter, whom I cherished dearly, had secretly changed her last name long ago without telling me. Zoe noticed where my eyes had fallen, and there was still a hint of guilt. She touched her nose and explained. "It's just a last name, right? Isn't it normal to take the father's name? And Dad doesn't have any children with his last name. You might not care, being a woman, but we can't let Dad's side end without descendants. Anyway, it's just a name. Do you really need to make a fuss about it?" The more she spoke, the angrier she seemed to become, even though I hadn't said anything. She still looked impatient. I stared at that name for a long time. Once, she had said with her own mouth that she didn't want her father. She said we depended on each other, we were the only family, and that was why she wanted my last name. Now, this meant that the last bond between us was gone. I waved my hand at her, my tone calm. "It's fine. You can have whatever last name you want. It has nothing to do with me. After all, I have truly decided that I don't want this daughter anymore." Chapter 6. On the way home, I blocked all of Zoe's contacts. I cut off all contact completely. I checked my savings and looked at this month's pension that had just arrived. Without hesitation, I booked a small refined tour online, packed my bags, and set off on a trip. For all these years, I had devoted myself entirely to Zoe and never got to see the beautiful mountains and rivers of this vast world. She used to always say that one day, when she grew up, when she graduated, when she found a job, when she got married, when she had children, when the children grew up, she'd take me traveling. But I waited and waited, year after year, and that day never came. Thankfully, now on my own, I can still see the wonders of the world. I visited the mountains and then the sea, enjoying conversations with others in the tour group. One of them, I called her Sister Miranda. Sister Miranda, like me, had devoted her entire life to her family, and her greatest wish was for her husband and children to take her out to see the world. But this simple wish of hers was met with scolding. They said she was being immature. They told her that being old, she should just stay at home quietly looking after the kids and not think about gallivanting around, saying it was shameful at her age. So she got hurt. She took her savings, blocked everyone from her family, and went on a spontaneous journey. We shared a similar outlook, having gone through similar experiences. So we had a great time together throughout the trip. In fact, before parting, we exchanged contact information and agreed on our next travel plan. But, as there are joys, there are also troubles. In our tour group, there was an old man who was a year older than me. His wife had passed away years ago from illness, and his children were all grown with several grandchildren, and he lived quite a cheerful life. However, he said that without a woman at home, there was always a sense of loneliness. When he found out I had been divorced for years, his eyes brightened, and he said he'd be willing to settle down with me to live together. I wasn't interested and didn't want to pay him any mind. Yet, he followed me all the way to my doorstep. Dragging my suitcase back home, not even having unpacked yet, I saw him standing at my door, holding a large bouquet of red roses. "Julia, look, we're about the same age, you're divorced and I don't have a wife. How about we just live together? I really like you, and I'll hand over all my savings to you. I won't ask for much. My sons and daughters will take care of the grandkids. You'll just need to take care of me, do some laundry, cook, and join me for walks now and then. If my kids are busy, you can help look after the grandkids. It's quite easy." Listening to his words, I took a deep breath. If I were 20 years younger, I'd have grabbed a mop and swung it at his head, but now that I'm older, I'm afraid I'd throw out my back before I even lifted the mop. So I simply called security to have him thrown out. "Julia, why are you being so heartless? Don't you like me? Even though I'm in my 60s now, I'm still a handsome old man. You'd have some status taking me out. You've been without a companion for so many years, aren't you lonely?" As the security guard escorted him out, he struggled and kept talking. I had finally had enough and swung the trash bag I was holding at him. The commotion was so loud that Zoe, who had just entered the community, spotted me immediately. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she asked, quickly walking towards me. I had just returned from a 3-month vacation, feeling relaxed and having gained a few pounds. Unlike her, who looked haggard, clearly having lost weight. I didn't say anything. She came up to me, looked at the old man still struggling nearby, and seemed to realize something. She pointed at me right away. "Mom, how old are you? And you're still thinking about finding a companion. Don't you have any shame?" Her eyes were full of condemnation, and she looked furious. Then she started hitting the old man with her bag, telling him to get lost. While hitting him, she yelled, "Mom, are you out of your mind? At your age, if an old man is interested in you, it's probably just for your money, and here you are, foolishly falling for it." After driving the old man away, she looked back at me and pointed at the community behind me. "What now? You refused to answer my calls all this time, and now you're renting a place here, living your life in style?" She seemed to have realized something, clearly unhappy. Then she said, "You're living carefree, doing nothing, while I'm at home, struggling with work and raising a child at the same time. I'm overwhelmed, and all you do is make things harder for me. You won't take care of the child, you won't do the housework, and you go off enjoying yourself, messing around with some old man. You're really such a great mom." The sarcasm in her words was all too clear. I looked at her, my gaze cold. "I told you last time, if you like Monica more, then go be her daughter from now on. As for me, I don't want to be your mother anymore. And as for all your mess at home, I have no obligation to take care of it, understand?" Listening to my words, she seemed to finally realize that I was serious about my decision. But she still couldn't help but rebuke me. "What do you mean you're not my mom anymore? We're connected by blood. I was born from you, so I'm definitely your daughter. Just come back home soon. There's a pile of mess at home. You used to pay the mortgage and the utility bills, and now you suddenly vanish without a trace. Do you know how lost this left Eric and me? We don't make much money to begin with, and we still have to raise a child. We haven't saved a penny these past few months. It's all your fault." Listening to her accusations, I slapped her across the face again. Get lost. I was truly disappointed, so I didn't want to hear another word from her. I turned and walked away. She covered her face where I had slapped her and stomped her foot in anger. Mom, are you serious right now? I was just telling the truth, and you hit me for it. No wonder Dad didn't want you back then. That remark made me stop in my tracks. I turned around, and she looked at me, her eyebrows raised as if expecting me to soften. I threw the other bag of garbage, the one I hadn't thrown yet, right at her head. Zoe, back then, when Samuel wanted to divorce me, it was because he was blind, because he was a scumbag. Between him and me, it was just a piece of paper, and once it was torn, there was nothing left. But you're different, you're connected to him by blood, and he still chose to abandon you for children who weren't even related to him. Deep down, you know who the real fool is. Maybe I never thought this day would come when my own flesh and blood would be stabbing each other. But if we must, then so be it. She may have been my flesh and blood, but I think of it as rotten flesh now. Cutting it out is the only way to heal. No one would cling to rotten flesh because it's not worth it. Zoe is not worth it. I turned away again, and her face turned red with anger. She was about to say something else, but suddenly her phone rang. She answered it, then shouted in shock. What? The house is on fire? She immediately turned and ran back. The woman who came with her also ran out, shouting as she went. Miss, are we still seeing the house today? Chapter 7. Eric's parents passed away when he was young, so after he and Zoe got married and had a child, I moved in with them. I took care of the child and also took care of their lives. So I had lived in that community for many years and knew quite a few people. Especially Lily, she was the one who loved gossip the most in the community. Whenever something new happened in the neighborhood, she was always the first to know and would share it with us, her old friends. Like this time, when Zoe's house caught fire, within half an hour, Lily called me via video. We had always gotten along well. Even after I moved out, she would often check in, telling me not to hesitate to ask if I needed any help. So I wouldn't ignore her video call. As soon as I picked up, I saw her excited face, the video aimed at Zoe's apartment window. Julia, your ungrateful daughter, bad luck's caught up with her. She chuckled, then began to tell me everything that had happened over the past few months. Back then, I went on my tour. Zoe couldn't find me and was still furious after being slapped several times by me, so she kept in contact with Monica. Monica's 2 children still hadn't gotten married. Joel was a troublemaker, never liked studying and now didn't like working, lounging around the house all day. As for Helen, she didn't want to work either, always dreaming of marrying a rich man. When Monica saw that Zoe had bought a large house, even though it was still under mortgage, their family circumstances were already quite good. So she decided to send her 2 children to Zoe. She said it was because as a family, they should spend more time together. Monica's children didn't hold back. Every other day, they'd show up at Zoe's house, always arriving empty-handed, and leaving with a bunch of things. Joel even invited a group of friends over to throw a party. The place was a mess, filled with smoke and chaos. Eric was furious. He had a big fight with Zoe, but Joel continued his behavior without caring. This time, Joel quietly brought people over again. They drank heavily, and one of them, while lying on the couch smoking, kicked over a half-empty bottle of liquor. The cigarette ash ignited the couch, and with the spilled alcohol on the floor, the fire quickly spread. Eric came home just in time to see thick smoke pouring out of the window. Joel barely managed to run downstairs, and when he saw Eric, who had just gotten home from work, the first thing he did was curse at him. He blamed the poor quality of the house for nearly killing him and demanded compensation. Eric was enraged and started fighting him on the spot, and even with a bunch of people trying to pull them apart, they couldn't be stopped. When Zoe returned, Joel and Eric suddenly stopped fighting, and both turned their anger on Zoe, cursing her furiously. In short, after the chaos, the house was uninhabitable for the foreseeable future. Zoe originally planned to stay at Samuel's place for a while, but he outright said there was no room for them and told them to go stay in a hotel, not giving them even a shred of consideration. A group of people sat under the apartment building munching on sunflower seeds and watching the drama unfold. Lily aimed her camera right at them, giving me a live broadcast. At the end, Lily said to me, Bad people meet their match eventually. Don't soften up. A daughter like that isn't worth feeling sorry for. I nodded, indeed feeling nothing for her. After all, my disappointment had reached its peak. Watching the video of them entangled in their arguments, I just found it ridiculous. Family ties had become incredibly ironic at that moment. Chapter 8. In the end, Zoe won the battle. She moved her family in with them, thinking it would prove her decision was right. But what she didn't know was that this decision would ruin her completely. As for me, after that video call with Lily, I stopped paying much attention to Zoe's matters. I recently found a new hobby. Handmade ceramics, going to a workshop and shaping various cute little crafts. It really helped me relax. I went for several days in a row. And wouldn't you know, right next to the ceramic workshop was a hotel. Just as I was leaving the ceramics studio with my fired pieces, I happened to see Zoe at the hotel entrance. And standing right in front of her, half-dressed, were Eric and Helen. Eric, we've been married for 7 years. I even gave you a lovely daughter. How could you be with Helen behind my back? She shouted at the top of her lungs. Sophia, holding her hand, seemed frightened. Helen's clothes weren't even properly adjusted. Over the years, she had dated several boyfriends, and she was always carefree. Even with all those eyes on her, she showed no sign of embarrassment. She even leaned against Eric in front of everyone. Zoe, you're just an old haggard woman now. No one's there to help you with the child, and you had to quit your job to stay home. You don't even take care of yourself anymore. How could Eric not be tired of looking at your face every day? Then she threw a flirtatious glance at Eric beside her. Eric, do you prefer this old woman or do you prefer me? Helen was charming, and above all, she was young. All this time, Eric and Zoe had been arguing constantly, and their relationship had already developed deep rifts. Now, caught red-handed, Eric showed no guilt whatsoever and said bluntly, Zoe, what are you making a fuss about? You should be at home taking care of the kid instead of running around. Which man doesn't cheat? Look at your dad. Didn't he leave your mom and end up with another woman? And you forgave him and even called that woman mom. If you could accept it back then, why can't you accept it now? Listening to Eric, her eyes widened, and she kept shaking her head. Eric, how could you say that? How could you say that? She seemed to be falling apart, reaching out to hit Eric. Eric pushed her away, shielding Helen in his arms, looking down at Zoe with a mocking smile, like she was a clown. Zoe, let's stop pretending here. Do you really think your dad likes you so much? If I hadn't worked so hard to make money and buy that house, do you think he'd even consider taking you back as his daughter? He just wants to make a profit off you to save more money for Joel and Helen. And you foolishly walked right into it, craving love, huh? But at least you did one good thing. Helen is so much more fun and understanding than you. Let's get a divorce. I don't want the kid, you take her. We'll split the money 50-50, and you better leave. Since you agreed with what happened to your mom, I suppose you won't have the face to keep holding on, right? Each word pierced straight into Zoe's heart, making her even more hysterical, sobbing uncontrollably. Helen remained calm, even brushing her hair back, and bending down to look at Sophia who stood in front of her. Hey little one, don't you think your mom is being a bit much? Making such a big scene over such a small thing. Listening to Helen, Zoe's eyes widened instantly. Get away. Don't you dare do anything to my daughter. She pulled Sophia toward her forcefully. Sophia's little arm was delicate, and with Zoe's strength, she started crying immediately. Crying, she began to push Zoe away. You're a bad mom. I don't want you. Sophia, I am your mother. I gave birth to you, raised you. How could you say that? Zoe, heartbroken, raised her hand to hit the child. Sophia immediately bit down on her wrist, causing Zoe to flinch in pain. She then ran straight into Helen's arms, turning to look angrily at Zoe. You're a bad mom. You always yell at me. I like Auntie. I want her to be my mom. Hearing this, Zoe's eyes widened. She seemed like she wanted to say something, but her gaze suddenly met mine from within the crowd. In that moment, her eyes were complicated, full of ridicule. Perhaps she finally realized, the things she had once said to me were now coming back around, hitting her right in the heart. Chapter 9. After witnessing the whole scandalous affair, Lily spent the day relishing the gossip and sent me dozens of 60-second voice messages, all of which were more or less about the things I had seen today. Since the house caught fire, the family of 3 had moved into Samuel's house. With cracks already present in their marriage, constant arguments ensued, and with me gone, someone had to take care of Sophia's pickup and drop-off from school. Eventually, Zoe quit her job to focus on being at home with the child. Helen had her sights set on Eric's income. Over time, with intentional flirting, the two of them hooked up. Samuel and Monica knew about it, even helping cover for them. Even Sophia had seen them a few times, but a lollipop was enough to keep her quiet. In short, as the chaos unfolded, Zoe, knowing everything, was thrown out by the entire family, and even her beloved daughter cried and refused to go with her, turning around to run into Helen's arms, calling her mom. As I was returning to the community from my walk, I saw Zoe at the entrance. She was squatting in the corner, and when she saw me, she looked like a pitiful little kitten that no one wanted. She reached out, tugging at the hem of my skirt, and pleaded, "Mom, I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" I looked at her, my daughter who in some sense was closest to me. If it were before, I would have felt heartbroken and then, without hesitation, taken a knife to Samuel's house. Even if it cost me my life, I would have avenged my daughter. But everything that had happened before had already made me realize that perhaps this ending was her own karma. So as I watched her tears fall, I truly felt nothing. It was as if a stranger was shedding a couple of worthless tears, trying to use this display to make me forgive her, to move back into my home, to return to how things were, where she didn't lift a finger and I treated her like my precious darling. But why should I? She may have once been my precious child, but now, she no longer is. So I shook off her hand, feeling no emotion at all, and calmly said, "You're calling the wrong person. I'm not your mother. I did have a daughter in this life, but in my heart, she died a long time ago. As for you, go back to wherever you came from. Don't show up again, or I won't hesitate to call security, understand?" After saying that, I ignored her desperate cries and went straight home. Chapter 10. Zoe came looking for me several times after that, but I refused to see her. I had already made up my mind about not having her as my daughter. She must have sensed how firm my decision was. Eventually, she stopped coming. And I continued my life, taking walks, making ceramics, or going shopping for a few nice dresses. Life, it's time I finally enjoy it properly. And when I heard news of her again, it was half a month later. Zoe had suffered a lot as a child. She had always been somewhat mentally fragile. Back then, I had stayed with her day in and day out until she became cheerful and lively again. Now, she had been abandoned by everyone, even her beloved daughter didn't want her anymore. Under the pretext of giving up everything, she gathered the whole family together, saying it was for one last reunion meal. After the meal, she said she'd leave alone for another city, never to return. And that meal, she prepared herself. And the ambulance, it came that night. Zoe bought a lot of rat poison, paraquat, and various kinds of toxic substances that she could buy on the market. She mixed it all together and put it in the dishes. And while everyone was suffering from the poisoning, she sealed the doors and windows and turned on the gas. By the time they were found, everyone was foaming at the mouth, unconscious on the floor. With all the toxins mixed together, even if they hadn't eaten much, it was too late when they were discovered. Not a single one of them survived to see the next day. Even 6-year-old Sophia lost her life. The news made national headlines, and the public dug into their past. They learned that Samuel was nothing but a scumbag. That Monica had risen as a mistress. That Joel was a thug, loved fighting and harassing girls, utterly repulsive. That Helen loved to steal other people's boyfriends, just like her mother. That Eric was also a scumbag, despised by everyone. That Sophia, even at her young age, was chillingly cold-hearted. That Zoe, blinded in her heart and mind, ultimately faced the consequences of her actions. The whole country knew about them, this group of people so vile that everyone wished they could spit on them. As for me, I also made a brief appearance on the trending searches. I took the opportunity to start a live stream making ceramics online, and there were many viewers. Some people thought I had suffered too much and sent me a lot of money as gifts. I donated all the money I earned from the live stream to help others in need. As for myself, from then on, I had no attachments, free from any burdens, living a carefree and happy life.